welcome to episode 57 of Beer with Strangers. I'm your host, Tony Russo, and I'm joined this week, as I'm joined most each week, most every week, by my co-host Doug Griffin.
Good afternoon, Tony.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
Oh, it's a great day. And as normal weather report, I can report it's a beautiful 77, 78 degree day. It's nice and sunny. A few clouds in the sky, but very, very sunny. So it's a nice day here on Delmarva.
And you're out earning your keep. When I got here, you guys are getting ready for your juices.
Yes, juice should be coming early next week. So for those who have ordered in Laurel, you should be able to pick up starting Wednesday. Now, let me say this. We don't know until we get it for sure, but they say delivery should be here on Monday. So until it's here, we really don't know, but we anticipate being able to start delivering it on Wednesday here and hopefully Friday in Lewis and Saturday in Millsboro.
And now, is this the same company as last year? Is this a different company?
Same company as last
distributor?
Last fall, yes.
I think it's fascinating that what I love about all of this stuff is that, like, it's part of an economy. It's like there are people, and what do you do for your job? My job is I drive grape juice to home vintners all over the region.
But it's not just. I mean, it's just not them. I mean,
right.
It's the guys who deliver it.
It's a shipping company.
Yeah, it's a cold shipping. And actually, we found somebody local out of Federalsburg that delivers down this way versus the one we had, Brand X, from I don't know where. But anyway, I've got somebody local, and it was a referral from one of our customers. So we really feel great that somebody local we could do business with.
That's fantastic. But the niche wine business is because now, do these guys also sell to wineries, like for wineries who want to supplement, or is this exclusively?
I'm assuming they do.
Yeah.
I mean, the things we're getting in is in buckets, 6 gallon. But I would assume that it comes in bulk, and you can get larger containers of it if you're a winery.
Yeah, it's just the things that you don't think about. One of the things that I'm lucky in, just in my job in general, but also in my involvement around this place, is you just see these little tiny things that are important, like that you just don't think about. You're like, this is. I mean, if I worked at a hobby shop, or if I was involved in any way in a hobby shop, and like I would think it was cool that there's some guy in Minnesota who makes the metal, the die-cast metal superheroes or whatever. Just when you see these little parts of how people go about their lives, it's a very cool thing. And I'm sorry. And along that note, I promised. Now that I'm a big shot, the mayor of Seaford reached out to me because that's how impressive I am. Just really briefly, this week I got to talk at the Seaford Library about beer. They had me at their annual fundraising dinner or whatever, and it was really cool. I was surprised at how I tried to keep it short. They wanted me to keep it short because I can go on and on and on, as you guys all know. But I kept it short. I kept it about 15 minutes, and then they asked me questions for like half an hour. I eventually had to say, okay, it's enough questions because otherwise I won't ever be invited back. And they were very, very excited. And Seaford wants a brewery, and so he said to me, if you hear of anybody who's looking for a place, let that place be Seaford. So if you're thinking of opening a brewery, if you're a home brewer, or a professional brewer looking to strike it on your own, they just got this huge grant from the state. So there is some money for some economic development. They're not going to buy your stuff for you, but they can give you. I think they can give you some. They can give you some breaks, and they can give you some help and some direction. You're going to have to make your own business, but they can. It's the downtown redevelopment, so it would have to be downtown Seaford, which there are worse places to be because, like I said, the state of Delaware just dumped a boatload of money into it, and they're looking to spend it. So if you or someone you know is interested in opening a brewery, reach out to the town of Seaford, the economic development people. They are they're truly hoping to get a brewery. I got to tell him about Michael Day in Berlin, and what he would do is, like, he would say he went on like probrewer.com. It's like, small town wants a brewery.
Yeah.
You know, and he got like 1,500 responses or something. He said he had no idea, you know, how
many people were thinking about it.
How many people were thinking about it? But, you know, everybody was like, yeah, sure, I'll come run your town brewery. And he's like, no. And they're like, you give us money. And no. We just want you to know that if you wanted to open a brewery, we
have space.
We have space, and we won't give you a hard time. We'll help you. And they did. They were very helpful. You know, moving the wheels of justice or whatever to get it done. And I think that's where Seaford is now. They're ready to get things out of the way so that they can get a brewery. And it would be cool. It would be cool because then I could start to sell myself as like the rainmaker. Like every time I get a new job in a new town, there's a successful brewery there. So that's cool. I'll take that. I'll take that anytime. So this week, lots of fun stuff. This is speaking of Seaford. This is National Tavern Month. It's a distributors holiday. Some of the distributors do, and the idea is to celebrate taverns. And I'm turning on the question and answers. If anybody has any questions or answers, feel free to question or answer them. So, did you get a chance to look at this? What did you think of this whole idea about?
Well, I think it's great. I think the local taverns are great. I think the breweries or the brew pubs are even, you know, promoting that too, as a family place to come and have a beer with your friends.
Right.
I think it's great. It's, you know, it's what we used to do more 30, 40 years ago. Everybody used to go to the bar for a beer after work. So I think it's back to our basics to a certain degree. Yeah,
and I like again, I'm very spoiled because I do live near Third Wave.
But I wish I could walk to Third Wave.
But I like the idea of giving them a little credit. And this is really what the distributors are doing. They're like, hey, listen, I know everybody's like, oh, craft brewery, but we want you guys to know that you're really, really important, because if you guys aren't slinging the craft beer as well, it's going to be harder for everybody. This is something that it's funny because there are the brewers, there are the liquor store owners, and there are the tavern owners, and all three play kind of they're an interdependent.
Yeah. Each depends on the other. The brew pubs are kind of unique in that they brew it and serve it, but you're right. The three-tier system where you get the brewery, the distributor, and the tavern.
Yeah, and they all need to be nice and work nice together. Yeah. And this is just a cool way of saying that they will work nice together. So anyway, I appreciate it. I'm pushing the tavern angle increasingly. If you haven't been yet, speaking of taverns, and we talked about this a little bit, Abbott's on Broad Creek in Laurel. You've been, right?
Great.
Oh.
And they usually have one or two of Miss Pillions on tap, and generally something from Evolution and something from Third Wave.
Yeah, they have. That's like an example of a nice local place that, you know, locally owned and operated. I think they have two places, and they have a place in Milford,
yes.
right?
Yes. Original place, and then they opened this place a couple years ago.
Yeah, and I went there, and it's the food's fantastic. I haven't had dinner yet. We just had appetizers at the bar.
Dinners are good there, so I've been there for dinner.
I'm looking forward to it. Actually, I'm taking my mother-in-law for Mother's Day, so that's the plan, and I'm gonna have some beer. Hopefully they'll have Holy Crap there, because that's, I think, my favorite. Have you had that? The Mr. Tillian Holy Crap? It's very good. There's going to be, I think there will be snobs. We did talk about this a little bit. Red ales versus ambers. Did we talk about this?
Maybe. I don't remember.
Maybe it was Sean. Do you have an opinion on red ales versus ambers? What's the difference between them?
It's just slightly different recipe, but it may not be anything different.
I feel like ambers are the next big thing. I think we've gone to hoppy, and now they're getting a little bit more malty and dark, and then I think that they're going to go malty and red. And I've seen increasingly I've seen ambers coming out of the breweries, out of the small breweries. And I mean, what is an ESB? How is that different from a red ale or an amber?
Usually it could be, it could be a red ale or an amber, but generally they're just a little higher in alcohol.
Oh.
Extra special bitter.
And that's what
yeah. Most of the bitters are similar to pale ales, English style, but they are hoppy to a certain degree, but they just call them bitters because they do have some hop bitter to them, but not overly hopped, not like an IPA.
Right. It's more like an English style beer.
Yes.
Yeah. Because Evolution has one, but they don't call it an ESB anymore. They call it a red ale. Exile.
Oh yeah, right.
Exile used to be Exile ESB, and I made this joke before. I hadn't had it since it had been Exile ESB, and that was when they first opened in Delmar 1,000 years ago. And I had it recently, and I was like, wow, this is a very, very, very good beer, and it's good because it's got some malt, it's got a little bit of bitterness, but it's a nice, solid centered beer, just very good. And you could, maybe it was high alcohol. Maybe my definition of high alcohol and the normal definition are a little skewed. I don't know. I thought maybe
probably seven-ish,
really?
7.5.
Very good. What a good beer. Maybe I'll pick some up on the way home. That's the toughest thing about here. If I'm going to try to lay off the beer, getting from here, because sometimes I almost always have a beer when I'm here, and then sometimes I leave with that taste in my mouth, and I gotta go get like a beer because I'll have a taste.
Third wave.
Yeah, I've got to get past third wave, and I've got to get past.
Or park and walk back, and then walk home.
My wife doesn't like to do that. I like to do that. Now especially that it's summer and that they'll be expanding. I think that I'm probably gonna end up paying for the third wave expansion. If anyone's curious. So anyway, so that's my little ESB red ale segue. Next up, we wanted to talk about the big. Are you a member of the class action lawsuit? And do you want to tell the story?
I can. Yeah, there's a home brewer out California, I think it was, that has put in a class action suit against Coors because their Blue Moon, they're advertising it as a craft beer, and it's definitely not craft beer by definition by the Brewers Association. So there's a class action suit against them because of misrepresenting themselves as a craft brewery. And I thought I doubt if it'll fly, but it does not represent them as they truly are.
Right.
And maybe it will fly.
Yeah, you know what? It's nice to whenever you can kick a big company, I'm for that. The only not concern, the only problem I have with this is the guy said, like, essentially he's like, I embarrassed myself in front of my friends because I kept saying that it was a craft beer, and they kept telling, and like, it didn't taste good. I mean, why not start it as it doesn't taste good? Don't drink it if it doesn't taste good. It
was good. But he said it was good. So.
Yeah. Well, I've never been a fan.
Yeah.
Before I was even on the craft beer bandwagon, I never liked Blue Moon. I gotta be honest, I'm not. Is that a wheat beer? What is that? Is that a?
I think it's wheat beer.
Hefeweizen?
No, I think it's a Belgian white. Actually,
Belgian white. There you go.
I think that's what they call it. But it does have some wheat in it.
Yeah, and it was just never been my favorite. The Belgian whites. Belgians got big, not because I was buying them. I mean, lots of people love Belgians. Yeah. I'm not. I don't hate them. What Dogfish Head's is 60-minute IPA? Does that use a Belgian? Is that a Belgian style? Is there what's their Belgian? They use Belgian yeast and something.
I think the raison d'etre.
That's what it is.
The Belgian yeast in.
All right, I'll drink that Belgian.
Yeah, that was their beer of the year, or beer of the year by Brewers. Forget who.
Beer Advocate.
Beer Advocate. I think it was the beer of the year in 2000.
Well, that is a solid beer. That's one I like to drink that all the time. But I've never. You a big fan? Did you ever really like Blue Moon? Did you like the way? Is it a good example of a?
It's a fair example.
Yeah.
I mean, all of the beers, as many as you know, are open for interpretation.
Right.
You've
Yeah.
got such a wide leeway on styles, but yeah, I think it was satisfactory.
And so I was speaking at the library last week, and they asked me, how big can you get and still be a craft beer? Which is kind of a fun question. And the best answer that I can give, and it's kind of a pat answer, but I like it. I'm like, well, the guys like Sam and like Jim Koch and like Mr. Yingling. What is his name?
Yeah.
Really is Yingling,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right. They're in the Brewers Association. They kind of set the standard for how much beer you can make. And I said, I think every time one of them bumps up against that top, you're going to see it getting up a little bit. And it's interesting that. So let's talk about for a second Boulevard beer, right? Boulevard is a good beer, and there's nothing. I mean, I like it, and now it's owned by Duvel. Maybe they bought it 2 years ago or whatever. Now Duvel didn't change anything. They just wanted it to sell abroad, so they're selling it in Belgium, wherever they're from.
Yeah.
Austria, yes. Belgium.
Yeah.
Right. So they just wanted to get into the European market where there's a high demand for American craft beer, and so in order to do that, they bought Boulevard, and they're like, okay, now we own you, and we're going to sell you in. Now nothing has changed about Boulevard, and Duvel is probably a craft brewery anyway because they do under
I don't know how
4
big,
million or 6
yes.
million.
Yeah.
But that's the same thing. So for instance, Fordham, where I'll be going in a couple weeks, I think. Excuse me.
In Dover.
Mm-hmm. Fordham's owned Budweiser owns 20%.
Yeah, and I think they did that to get them distribution.
To do the distribution deal. And so as long as Budweiser owns less than 50%, 52%, right? They can own 51% of it,
right.
and have it still count.
They make their own decisions then.
Right, exactly. So have it still count as a craft beer. But I think as long as they're making good beer, then that's I like they do. What do? They have all the pinup beers, all the pinup girl beers, and I lose track of which one is which. But their coffee, they do a coffee stout that's very nice that I've had. And
I haven't had any of theirs for a while.
Yeah, they do a lot. They do that, and they do a blonde, a Belgian blonde. That's not bad either. Maybe I do like Belgian. Maybe I'll stop on the way home and pick up some Blue Moon and see how I feel about it. I feel like in a blind taste test, I probably still wouldn't.
It was an orange slice.
That's tough. That's a tough sell. I mean, I'll put an olive in my martini, and that's pretty much occasionally a slice of lime in a gin Ricky as garnish. Garnishing's not my bag,
Or a lime in your Corona?
No, never. When we go to there's a Mexican place and they'll serve you a beer with the lime on the side. I take it off and I give it to my wife. My wife puts in the beer. She's happy to do it. It's not my bag. I started ordering Yingling so they would stop putting lime in my beer. I had ordered the Dos Equis before that. And then
Yingling's a fairly good sized beer. It's a regional beer, and I don't know how many states they're in, but they're quite large.
Yeah, well, they are the largest. They just took over the number one slot this year in that same. Something that everyone else that no one seemed to be aware of is that Dogfish was the 13th largest brewer.
That's pretty amazing.
And it blew their minds. And it's funny when you're in it all the time, you forget how little beer matters to everybody else and how they don't know things like this. And so one of the other great questions I got was, how much did I think Dogfish had to pay to be on tap at a casino in Las Vegas? And I said, they didn't pay anything. And they said, you know what they did? They had a bunch of guys like me would come and say, you don't have any Dogfish Head? No, well, I don't want a beer, But it's funny that
That's generally how the beers get on tap at their places. People keep asking for it.
And that whole idea of people just not being really familiar with how things work when they don't care about them. Yeah. And I'm not knocking anybody. I mean, there's tons of, I mean, I would never admit to not knowing something, but I'm sure there's tons of stuff that I don't know.
I mean, there may be salesmen who come around and say, hey, you know, we got these beers available. Which one do you want? Any of these? And
yeah.
Of course, the bar manager is going to put those on tap that he's had requests for.
Right. And it's for especially because these were older people. And, you know, older people in Seaford who really do remember when everybody's like, hey, did you hear they're opening some sort of beer store in Rehoboth? You know, just kind of like weird rumory. I remember I was working at the Ramada here when it had just opened. I was started in '93, so during the process of it, and it would be like, they're going to have some sort of microbrew. What's a microbrew? Yeah. It was really kind of very nebulous. And so these people, that was the last time I thought about it. It was 1996. And then all of a sudden, this guy's out in Las Vegas and he's like, hey, we have a beer just like that back where I come from. You know, and he's like, they were astonished that it had gotten that big and that they didn't know about it. And then that's why the mayor's like, you know, hey, we could use, we'll take the brewery, one brewery, please. And it's funny because, you know, my boss had asked if he saw the other thing is when you just go out and never shut up, people just assume you're an expert, so they ask you questions like you're an expert, and they're like, so when do you think the next one's going to expand, and do you think they'll expand to Seaford? And I'm like, no, why would they? You know,
well, I think you're seeing lots of breweries open, and I think they have to kind of decide whether they're going to stay local in a town or a county or try to distribute to get their beer out, but they have to decide how big they want to get.
Right when you open the building, because you know you have to have room to grow. Like the guys at RAR, they actually bought the building behind them, which is convenient because they don't have to go very far. And then Lori and Sue Ellen, they just keep buying more property on the same block. Sure. They're going to own a third of Del Mar before they're all said and done. But I'm not a business person, clearly. But I don't know how big you need to get anymore. You know, to stay competitive.
Bigger, there's more competition out there. So once you start distributing, you're in competition with everybody else who's distributing. So, but that's what you do as a business owner. You got to just make those decisions.
And one of the things, and we're back to the tavern, which is why I have been and still kind of remain a fan of this, of like now that we've kind of hit. I want to talk about this real quick. I keep throwing this number around, and now I need an expert to tell me what it means. So before Prohibition, there were 4,100 breweries in the country. Today there are 34, something like that.
Yeah, and more opening.
And more opening all the time. And now before Prohibition, there were 10 million people living in the country or something, or 60 million people maybe. But now there are 300.
Yeah.
Do you think that how much do you think volume wise is different? Sorry.
Everything I've heard, its volumes are down per person, but you have more people, so there should be more volume of beer being consumed overall.
Right. Yeah. I felt a little disingenuous. I said it anyway, but I felt a little disingenuous when I'm like, there are way more people now than there were in 19. But
I don't think we're drinking. 18. Each person is drinking as much beer as they used to.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But that's only.
But I got nothing to base that on.
Yeah, I mean, but I just somebody who knows what they're talking about. I feel better if you kind of agree with me, then I'm just going to assume I'm right. That's the easiest way for me to go about my life.
But these breweries, such as Third Wave or Mispillion, they're getting local people to drink their beer.
Right.
So those people must have been drinking beer before, or some kind of beer.
Right.
So somebody's losing out on those sales.
Yes, and one of the things that they point to though a lot is the hipsters, and not even just the hipsters, like my children, like my kids, the ones that drink beer, drink craft beer. It's just what they like, you know. They like I have
one or two, but not pounds.
Well, I have daughters too, you know. But I think that there is something of a cool factor, and I'm not accusing them of being disingenuous themselves, but there's something of a cool factor if you're just this little blonde girl and you're like, you know, I'll have that great huge dark beer that, you know, what's the darkest with the, you know, what's the darkest roastiest thing you have? You know, my daughter's big into the coffee stouts, and into the bourbon barrel stouts and porters, you know.
The dark and luscious.
They like the big heavy beers. I like the big heavy beers, and that's what I keep around the house. Well, what I used to keep around the house back when I was allowed to keep beer around the house. So I think that that's at least going to be some part of it. So the bigger beer companies, I don't think have done a great job cultivating the next generation of beer drinkers. I think that has to do with, frankly, I mean, like there's gadgets. Everybody, you know, I've got a third wave bumper sticker. You know, I've got a third wave T-shirt. You know, they're the breweries, the smaller breweries now. They're involved in merch. You know,
right. Well, and they attend a lot of the local events,
and they're right there. And like I said, my daughter Amanda, who's the only one who's moved away so far, she's the one that, you know, when she goes in and she sees a third wave beer in Wilmington, she points out to anyone who listens. She's like, "Yeah, they make that 4 blocks from my house." And it's cool, you know. And as the beer kind of leaches out, it's not exploding, but it's spreading, and people are like, "That's where I'm from," and I think that's cool, you know. And
I want one of them to taste.
And I want one of those, and I want you guys to know that, you know, it's a represent kind of thing. Speaking of which, in the news, I don't know if we mentioned this or not, but Miss Pillion is approved for Maryland. We should be able to get them in Maryland.
I hadn't heard that yet. Okay, good. I knew they were trying to get that.
Yeah, I don't know if I read that or if I was told that. If I was told that and I wasn't supposed to repeat it, I apologize. But if they look, just ask around. They'll be here. If they're not here, they'll be. I think they posted something on Facebook on one of those, like you know, you can get us now in Maryland. But it's very exciting. That's my new hot and up and coming beer. I haven't spoken with our friends at Warlock in a while, but they changed their name. Have you heard from those guys at all?
Name is now Blue Earl,
right?
Because there was a beer, and I can't remember what brewery it was, but one of the larger breweries had a beer named Warlock, and rather than fight to keep that name, they decided to change the name because there was no
real following,
right?
And are they open yet? How close are they? Do you know?
I do not know. In progress. That's all I remember.
Cool. Hopefully, we'll have them on in the very near future. We're gonna get ready to wrap it up. Couple quick things before we go. Tomorrow, I'm going to visit our friend Jason Weissman at 45th Street Tap House, Asselwoman Brewing Company. It was funny. He's got a really good sense of humor about it. I'm like, so you in the tap house? Are you near? He's like, we're going to get better signs. by the 4th of July, we're going to have better signs, and the restaurant's going to be renovated. Just bear with us for the love of God. Because for a while, I thought the brewery was off site.
It's right there.
I made that up in my head, and everybody's like, no, that's stupid. So anyway, we're going to go see him tomorrow at Henton. So check for 1 or 2 blog posts about him next week. And also getting ready to launch into my big Delaware offensive. So I'll be speaking with people, hopefully at Twin Lakes again soon, and we'll have all of those folks on the show as I go to these breweries. Speaking of guests on the show next week, Anthony Towie from Towie. I'm gonna have to ask him again. It's so embarrassing. It's not like he's my boss or anything. My boss from Shore Craft Brewing is going to be on the. He'll be on the show. They're running a big competition, not a competition, but a social media. You go to a place, you take your picture, you hashtag it. The first one to get all 17 breweries or all. They have an Ocean City challenge, which I think is 8 breweries. They have a wider a Delmarva challenge, which is 17 breweries. And stay tuned for that. He'll tell you more about it next week. It'll be fun. They just announced it yesterday, so we'll have him on next week to talk a bit more about that. And last but not least, the next Friday morning, while you're driving around, you can catch me on WSCL, where I've been. Again, you talk loud enough, they'll just So as the de facto beer historian of the Eastern Shore. People keep calling. I don't have the courage to say no, or the vanity. My vanity's too much. They're like, "Hey, we heard you're an expert on beer. We need you on our show." I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? I am now. I am." Until you find
Congratulations.
Until Doug has the nerve to say, "You know what? He's literally just repeating what I tell him to say."
You're doing quite well.
It's like the world's lamest Cyrano de Bergerac. But anyway, yeah. So you can catch me on WSCL at 9:30. Listen, it's good for you to listen to
Don Rush.
radio. Yeah, with Don Rush, I'll be on. They'll broadcast it on the television. Pack 14 will carry it, and it'll be. We'll be talking about. I don't know if I'm talking about the history of craft beer or the economic development aspects, both of which I'm comfortable talking about. Mostly because I did really only the research on the history, so I could have made every word of it up, and none of you would know. No one would know. I didn't make it up, but I could have.
Yeah.
And then we got classes.
Yes, we got class this Saturday. Beer Basics starts at 2:00. If you want to attend, let us know so we can make sure we have space here all set up. And the following Saturday, the 16th, we have Wine Basics. So again, let us know. We'd love to have you here.
And the Wine Basics, do you think you'll still have, if I came to a Wine Basics course, would it be a mistake to leave with a bucket full of juice? Is that too big a
Well,
jump?
not necessarily a bucket full of juice, but a kit. We're limited. We do have our juices coming in, but we have very limited supply of extras that we got. But we do have wine kits that you can take home with you, with the equipment and everything you needed to do it. And roughly that's 30 to 45 days to have a kit made. The sweeter wines are generally ready in about 30 days. The more robust wines, you need a little more aging time. 5-6 months gets it to where it's much better.
I don't want to go way over time, but I want to ask you a wine question. When was the last time you had a rosé?
It's been a while. I usually like my dark reds. But most people, at least from what I've seen, they start with sweet wines and they may try something a little darker, which is rosé, and then eventually a lot of people, at least from what I've seen, migrate to the reds and then the darker reds as time goes on. I did
a story a couple weeks ago on Nassau Valley Vineyards, and they had an award-winning rosé, and that just kind of blew my. I didn't think that there was such a thing as an award-winning rosé. So it piqued my interest, and I might have to break down and buy a bottle and see if I like it. It's a medium-bodied,
light red.
We'll see. I always think of just like
In fact, light to medium, probably. I mean,
White Zinfandel, and it's better than that, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry I said White Zinfandel with a sneer. I didn't mean
that's a blush wine that has very little color.
I didn't mean to sneer. Yeah. But I have had regular Zinfandel, which can be quite good. That's a good beer. It's a good wine. But sorry we brought us. We're all right. We're a little bit over, but thank you for spending the extra 2
and talking about wine.
Talking about wine, yeah. But we're going to diversify. We're going to diversify, and we're going to have guests. And I'm going to say that until it's true. But other than that, I think we're.
So join us, please.
Yes,
talk about beer.
Come on in and talk about beer, or else you're going to have to listen to me ask Doug questions about wine, and then go on the radio as a wine expert, which I am totally not afraid to do. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.